Well, there she is.
Yes,
I
indeed.
wonder what color we're going to coordinate today.
The lucky color.
we we are the Red Brigade. I don't even know if that's a good term to use, but it'll probably come back to haunt me. Someone will write me and tell me that was a bad idea, Paxton. Okay, so the objective was for me not to wear lipstick today
Ah, I covered it for you.
because I said, okay, I can do red. Okay, I got red ties. I got other things I could do, but I said no. We're gonna have a red day, and as you know, we talked a little bit before you came on now, and I had to change shirts because I said, man, she's styling, so I got to go change to a better shirt. So it's like, we talked for a little bit before the show, so I was like, hey, wait a minute. She's like, wait, let me even do my hair. Uh, I am ready to go. So what that means is music gets turned off, and I get to pick your brain. Um, Darcy, you have trusted me
Yes.
as my over 200 some close to 200 or over 200 some odd guests have done so or thereabouts. So I want you to know you trust me.
Yes.
So that means that you decided to come on this show and let me ask you whatever I would like to that's related to your page
Go right
that
ahead.
has to do with mental health.
I'm an open book.
Okay. Well, let's start flipping through some pages. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to need your wisdom on something. Let me do a few things here as I get all of these little monitors working in my behalf. And I'm going to ask you about this. On your page, you have a posting, which is off to the screen here that I'm going to be looking at, a number of them that I just want to pick your brain because they're so awesome.
Thank you.
And I believe they're going to encourage some others. So here we go. And by the way, I know you're not nervous because you're such a professional. You're not nervous.
Girl, calm down once we're in.
I know. I'm just so mean. I'm so mean. I do that to all my guests. But it's your turn today. So let's do this. I'm going to ask you about this posting. It says one thing at a time is the posting you made January 18th. Why is that important when it comes to mental health in these difficult and critical times that we live in today? Why is one thing at a time very important?
I just, for me personally, with experiencing anxiety and PTSD and all of these other things, mental health issues, I find that if I load up too many worries, excuse me, on my plate, I get totally overwhelmed and I can't finish or take care of any of them, let alone one of them. So I think that it's okay to kind of adjust your expectations. You don't have to do 5,000 things a day to be a success. You can get one critical thing done and feel good about yourself and not give yourself a hard time about it. And so, you just have to be really careful with yourself. It's easy to get overwhelmed, especially during COVID. We're all cooped up and just kind of
Yep.
crazy to begin with. So I just think people need to take it a little bit easier on themselves and not, necessarily feel like you have to be a workaholic or, the best parent in the entire world. Give yourself a break sometimes and just get little things done.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I saw this posting. I went like, oh my goodness, I have to talk about that. I get more and more. This is a reminder that people give when they come on the show. You're doing it today. Others come on the show and they keep reminding this same posting similar to yours, one thing at a time. People get overwhelmed. Matter of fact, another posting you have here says the greatest thing we can do is to let people know that they are loved. When it comes to our mental health as a consultant, why is that important?
For people who are mentally ill in particular, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, I'm bipolar. And I have found since I was, diagnosed 30 years ago that
Mhm.
people often don't know how to help you or deal with you when you're super sick mentally. It's just not, something that people are familiar with and they don't know how to fix it for you, but you don't
Right.
have to fix it. All you have to do is be there, check in, and do it consistently and just, be like, okay, I love you. I care for you. I will do anything I can to help you, but don't try to fix it. Just be there, but please be there. People take off when you get mentally ill. Like it's just a very common thing. People just hide and run for the hills. And it's sad because you're there for anyone who has cancer or diabetes or any other disease. It's a disease. And so stick around. you know?
Okay, we got to spend a little bit on that. That was really good. I just thought about what you said. So comparing it to cancer and other aspects of life, yeah, people, when it comes to mental health or someone is struggling, uh, it could become because of past trauma, a chemical, whatever it may be. Sometimes they throw their hands up and say, hey, they're on their own.
Yeah, because there's still such a stigma attached to it. Often mental illness will have you behaving in a way that is totally unlike any way you've ever behaved before in your life. For instance, with bipolar, when you're manic, it's like you're possessed. You're doing the worst possible things you can even imagine, and you can't stop yourself. You cannot stop yourself. And people are like, she's nuts. Let me just not be friends with her for a while until she works it out. And it's all it takes is a simple Google. If you know your friend is bipolar or schizophrenic or anything, Google it. Figure out why they might be behaving that way. Don't stand by and gossip about how that person is behaving, because it's clearly due to the illness, not because they want to be a jerk all of a sudden.
Right, right. And because of that, because of you mentioning about the stigma aspect, it's a huge thing that many people are struggling with. And I speak in behalf of the men that write to me and watch the show. They often speak about it in a different way than most people, simply because they're supposed to be these people that are perfect, brave, and all these other things, but they're struggling with other aspects of life, MPD, bipolar, all these other things, and that stigma keeps them where they don't want to come out and get help. You have two postings on stigma. One, in the stigma of mental illness, you have two postings on that. Why is the stigma of mental health, why is it so detrimental to a person's long-term happiness?
Because just again, as with any other disease, you're terrified. You're terrified for your life, because often these mental illnesses come along with massive suicidal thinking or actions. And if people disappear when you need them the absolute most, it's just insult added to injury. It is them just totally abandoning you at your worst possible moment. You wouldn't do that to someone who's on a cancer deathbed. Not that that's any better or anything anyone would ask for, but you wouldn't do that. You'd be visiting them at the hospital, arranging meals for their family and driving their kids around.
Mm-hmm.
So that just doesn't happen as much with mental illness. And so I think that we need to get the word out that you can be there without having to be an expert on such matters. But,
Right.
don't.
Their presence alone. So if a loved one's presence, that alone, and being consistent to the
Yeah.
best of their ability, is going to make a difference for someone who is having challenges when it comes to their mental health. Um, that they're being present. But a person with bipolar, what are some things? What's a grocery list they could hand to a loved one to say, hey, these are some things I'm looking for. If you had to name a few things for those who follow the show that are struggling with bipolar or their family members, what do the family members need to know as a grocery list or as a tip sheet that they need to kind of keep in mind to make it manageable for someone who's with the challenge of bipolar?
Love that question. Okay, so call regularly. If they don't pick up, fine. Be old
Okay.
school. Leave a voicemail, text regularly. Don't just do it once. Keep following up. And maybe just show up on the doorstep if you're worried and they haven't left the house in a long time. Just go there. Just be present. It just goes such a long way, even if they're too down and out to ever respond to you. It goes such a long way to know that someone is just sending that text once a week or making that phone call once a week. It just makes the biggest difference. The other thing I would say is that when it comes to a lot of mental illnesses, you spiral out of control so quickly that
Okay.
often by the time you realize you're in trouble, it's almost
Mhm.
too late to get a doctor's appointment or a psychiatrist's appointment. So and these professionals, mental health professionals, are totally overwrought because they have so many people to care
Wow.
for, that you might have to, make literally 100 phone calls to get that appointment.
Right.
So delegate that to a friend. Just let them call and
Oh.
call. Another thing my therapist once told me, which was horrifying, was that when I called him to try to get an appointment, apparently I sounded so desperate that he was like, I'm not calling her back. She needs to be
Oh,
on
wow.
first. Yeah. And I love this guy, but that is a priority. And first of all, like if you are out of control and you think, okay, I could probably use some meds, which you probably can, you get the psychiatrist or the nurse practitioner appointment first.
Okay.
That has
Okay.
to go first. Get you on the meds, and then you get the
Hmm.
long-term like therapy. So
Got it.
yeah.
So, so when it comes to uh, tips that a bipolar person, we're just picking that right now, or PTSD, it could be a number of different things.
Yeah.
It's okay to maybe, if you put on a refrigerator, put it somewhere, send it to them in an email, send it to them in a text message to remind them, hey, these are some things, if I may look like I'm struggling, I need you to do for me.
Yeah.
Those are some great things. I'm going to ask you, though, to do me a huge favor. You didn't know this was coming. Do me a huge favor. Maybe when the shows are over with that we're going to do today, in the comment section for the show, you can kind of outline those tips too, because a
Yeah.
lot of people like that, that they have one place they can look for tips
I,
for a specific show. So just some show notes that you can put in, and maybe after the show, work really good, the ones you just mentioned. But when it comes to your page, by the way, what is your page for everyone to be able to go take a look at even now while we're doing the show? What's your page?
so it's kind of long. Roane, ROANE dot mental dot health dot consulting.
That's absolutely perfect. But if you could do me a huge favor, it's a thing that a lot of my viewers have been asking me to do. So you get to be the first guinea pig that I actually do it to. So, so could you type that in the comments for us there on the screen
Yeah.
while I pull up some other information here from your page? On your page, you also have a posting. I'm gonna mention two postings right now that I totally love. You have a posting that says this is a very serious posting. I want everybody to understand what I'm about to read right now is extremely. I know I'm smiling, so that gives it away. It's extremely serious what I'm about to say right now that she has posted on her page. If you want to join me, go to her page while we're doing the show. So the posting is dated February 6th of this year. And the posting says something very specific. It says naps are good for you.
Yeah, they are.
My therapist said so. Okay, I just want to make a huge poster of that and put it on my wall behind me sometimes when I do the show. That is such a cool posting. Naps are good for you. My therapist said so. So why did you feel a need to make that posting for all of social media, millions and millions of people, to remind them?
It's because I have been secretly just closet napping for so many years now. And, I always felt guilty
I
about
have never heard that before.
it.
I'm a old man. I've lived three score, so you have been a closet napper,
Yes.
essentially.
I
Yes. Okay.
college. And so I always feel guilty about it. Like, my God, shouldn't I be just producing 100% of my time? But I always feel so much better when I take a nap, And so
Closet napper.
I
Okay.
finally asked my therapist about it a year ago. I'm 47, and I finally asked the therapist, is it okay if I nap? And he was like, yes,
Yes. Please, by all means.
yes,
We all have this high tech machinery that we carry around called the brain. Sometimes it needs to get unplugged and it needs to, be rebooted. So a nap is kind of how we do it. I saw that. That was so cool. I went like, okay, I was gonna start to show off that way, and then literally say, okay, everybody, we're done because we're all gonna go take a nap right now. When
right.
we wake up, the world will be a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You were gonna say.
That's
Go ahead.
right, that I carried guilt around about it for so many years. I didn't tell my friends I was doing it.
Really?
you know,
They thought they start thinking you're a slacker. Why is she always napping?
and I'm so
But
sad that I didn't, check in with a
yeah,
professional about it sooner. He thought it was fine, great even.
napping is one of those. I say this now, now that I'm way over 50. But what I was gonna say is, napping is like one of those great gifts. It's a great mood stabilizer. It's a gift we give to our body that really works,
Yeah.
because no matter what happens, very seldom do we feel awful after we take a nap. Of course, unless if we left the gas on or the fire or fire started, then that's different. But if not, a nap always works. I gotta segue to the next thing you have here. Another one that I love: baby steps eventually become giant leaps. Why
Yeah.
is that important for someone who's not feeling that they're enough?
Well, for a lot of people, again, I'll come back to mental illness and that sort of thing. When you are recovering, say, from a heavy depression, for instance, it
Mhm.
is like an act of God to even get up and brush your teeth, or like, God forbid, take a shower. You know, it just seems like the biggest deal in the entire world. So
Yeah.
you feel terrible about it and you wonder, why am I not progressing faster? Why am I not recovering faster from this? And that's just so detrimental to your health. And so you want to set tiny little goals for yourself at the beginning and just be
Mm.
so glad that you've accomplished those. Don't ask anything more of yourself. Just get the little things done that you feel like you can handle. And it's okay. It's okay if it's not some huge conference call, or, you know,
Right. Right.
taking your dog for a proper walk, for, you know, if you haven't done that for a while. So just like, you know, just set these more tangible piece by piece types of goals so that you're not overwhelmed and you can still feel a sense of accomplishment by getting them
Right.
done. Write it down and cross it off when you're finished and you've done it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then moving through this, I love a point you make here when you say choose people who choose you. Choose people who choose you. Why is that important if you have to deal with a narcissist?
Oh. Well, a narcissist is never going to choose you. And if you can recognize that right off the bat, they're
Wow.
opposed to, you know, going through all of the hoops to try to make it work. And does he like me? And, you know, why is he behaving this way? If you can see the right red flags and educate yourself about narcissism sooner rather than later, then, you know, you won't waste your time. You won't get invested. You won't be in the trauma bond and unable to break it. So, yeah, I mean, people should be choosing you right off the bat. If they're showing up 2 hours late for your second date, then, you know, they're not choosing you.
Yeah, 2 hours is bad.
Uh,
Okay, 2 hours is okay. 15, 20 minutes, you might be able to kind of work around some stuff. But once you start getting past a half hour, it's like, yeah, especially if you don't get a phone call or a message like, hey, I'm on my way, or, you know, something, you know, I broke my leg or something.
yeah,
Yeah, but too many excuses is bad too. That's good.
totally.
That's like, yeah, if you're getting too many excuses at the beginning, that's never going to be good. I'm looking at something that you posted here on February 8th, similar to what we kind of touched on already. It says people with mental illness don't need to explain themselves, just like people with diabetes or cancer don't have to explain themselves.
Exactly. And from my experience personally, even, you know, with bipolar disorder, yes, if you're manic, you're going to behave in a way that is utterly and completely unlike what you would be doing in a normal state of mind. And you're often offending people. You have a zero edit button and you do just, yeah, really insane stuff. And so my one friend who was incredibly supportive to me throughout this experience really still called me out on the carpet after I had made amends with
Wow.
everyone, and still,
Really?
you know, and she's one of the smartest people I've ever known, but somehow it still wasn't computing that, you know, I was basically psychotic and, you know, I had zero grip on reality. And so, yeah, the things I did were terrible, but I still went and made amends immediately, just got right on the amends train, which you have to do after every manic episode, which is a
Wow.
bummer. But yeah, I don't know. It's just people that you might think would take the time to do a simple Google search. Oh, she was acting that way because of this, you know, because of her illness, as opposed to, you know, it would be like judging someone for having a tumor. So,
Wow.
you know,
Wow, that's a really no, really that's an interesting way to put it. I have to keep that in mind when it comes to living a life with bipolar. Um, what is it that you recognize that you deal with as challenges that others have no idea that you struggle with?
well, I mean, like we talked about the baby steps, it took me such a long time to come back from this last monster manic episode 4 years ago. And I was, you know, I grew up as such an overachiever, put myself through college on, you know, two different scholarships for, you know, I can't even see it now. I can't even think of the word for intellectual prep.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I was a hyper overachiever for most of my life. And then when the depression and manic episodes started happening for me, I couldn't do anything afterwards. I could not move. I couldn't take care of my,
Wow.
you know, so you just have to not beat up on yourself. And again, if you've had a manic episode, you have to run around and absolutely make amends with the people that you've offended, and just be prepared. You know, you're not going to necessarily get everyone back, and that's okay. That's their prerogative. If you've made amends and explained yourself, that's the best you can do. So sometimes you have to let go of, you know, people who, yeah, have disappeared because of how offensive you were. So hopefully,
when you walk into a room, do you lead? When you walk into a room, do you lead yourself into a room with the bipolar in front of you, or is it your personality in front of you? Is it your intellect? What do you carry in front of you as the first thing people need to meet? Do they need to meet the bipolar illness, or do they get to meet the beautiful Darcy that we see right now?
oh, thank you. I lead with myself, just who I am, but you know, with American society, people pretty much ask you what you do for a living.
Yeah.
What you do for a living.
Welcome. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
So
other parts of the world, they don't care. They really don't care.
no, it's weird to ask people that way. But so you know, any of my personal friends certainly know already. Anyone who's known me for a long time, but with new people, yeah, I mean, I've outed myself to all of my daughter's parents, and you know, I'm okay with it. I found that one of her best friends' mother is also bipolar, and we were a love match. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I lead with myself, but I'm pretty much an open book, and I'm so outspoken about like getting rid of the mental health stigma and everything that I'll talk to anybody who will listen.
Yeah, I need us to talk a little bit to Barry bipolar, Barry_bipolar on the screen. Do you see that there? There's a comment there on the screen from Barry_bipolar. Please forgive me. My eyes are not the best. I can't tell whether it's a male or female. I'm assuming that's a female there, the picture. It says, feels like your brain has used up all its juice after an episode. Agree? Disagree?
I 100% agree. And something that I just found out in an unfortunate manner is that it can cause brain damage for you to have manic episodes.
Wow.
I found that after I was manic and I was on a ton of meds and everything, I couldn't put a sentence together without forgetting some crucial word in the middle of it. It fries your brain. And so it is just, you know, you're fuzzed, and typically at the point where your manic episode ends, you're so just out of it in general that, yeah, it takes a really long time to feel like you've bounced back to yourself. I still am horrified. Like earlier, I was talking about my scholarship and I couldn't tell you what it was for.
No. I understand. I hear you. I hear you.
Forget stuff, and it's awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100% get where you're coming from. Very bipolar. Yeah. And I wish it would go all the way away, but it's not seeming to.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I get to understand more about you is that you become quite aware of what others are going through, and that they may be struggling in silence with manic episodes and a number of other things that you now are more aware of. This bipolar awareness and mental health awareness that you're working with others with and helping them with. But I turn to this posting, and tell me your thoughts on this. It's okay to be in a dark place. You'll fight like hell to get out of it. You're stronger than anyone you know. This posting that you did February 13th, you even have in the caption, your words are, keep your head up, is what you put.
Yeah.
Why was it important to make this posting for others?
Because I think it's so hard for people to understand, if they haven't been through it, just how much it takes out of you to be mentally ill. And they might look at you and think, God, she's lazy, or, you know, she's not getting anything done. And, you know, what's her issue? Why is she not bouncing back? And it can take just an obscenely long time to bounce back. And even when you do bounce back, you're not necessarily your former self. And maybe that's okay. Maybe, you know, you have a different journey at that point. But it's just, I think, a shout out to people who are going through it. Like, I get it. It doesn't make you any less of a person. I ganged up on myself about that for a long time. It's just part of the drill, unfortunately. And I mean, it's not something that again, it's a disease, and you have to recognize that it's a disease, and, you know, you just have to go through it and not, you know, beat yourself up for not being just like everyone else.
Ignoring it is not going to work, is what you're saying.
Yes. No.
and ganging up and beating up on oneself, gaslighting oneself, emotionally abusing oneself, and kicking oneself over and over is not going to work either, based upon what you're saying.
Oh no, it's like kicking yourself when you're down. You have to give yourself credit for every little success that you have, and listen to the people who know you and are watching you and, like, say to you, you've made great progress. You've made huge strides. Do not, discount that. And there are people who will say that to you and hear it, believe it.
Hmm.
It takes tremendous effort to come out of that well and, be able to deal with normal society again.
Right. And the challenge in dealing with normal society per se, quotation marks were on that, normal society as it were. In dealing with normal society, what are some of the challenges a person with bipolar mental illness, the challenges they face when they step out into quote unquote normal society? Is it moving too fast? Is it at times they're moving too fast? Is it at times they're feeling invisible? Or is it at times that they feel like everyone's watching them? What are some things that you can kind of lay out that you've experienced or that you've come across in consulting others?
Well, just right off the top of my head, one thing that horrified me was that about 5 or 6 years ago, I was applying for a job. I used to be a recruiter helping people find jobs. And on the job application itself, it asks if you're
Wow.
bipolar. And I'm just like, well, that's just,
Oh,
that's
wow.
not all right. And so, of course, I lied and said that I wasn't and got the job, but that sort of thing. But if people know, even your closest friends or people that you think are your closest friends, if they know you're bipolar, they'll gossip about you. There's going to be gossip about you regarding your behavior if you ever act in a way that is not normal and acceptable to everyone else. And again, even though it's really easy to have a bipolar person explain to you, I would never behave that way had I not been really sick, they'll still kind of opt to go around and discuss it, amongst themselves. And I'm guilty of doing it too, with people I knew who were mentally ill before I ever knew that they were mentally ill. I gossiped about it and I hate myself for it. But it's just so common, and it just makes you feel like you're always walking around with your tail between your legs, and it's just not necessary. You should be so proud of being alive. There's a 30% more chance of someone with bipolar disorder committing suicide than, normal people. That's a huge statistic. And so the fact that you're around is a miracle.
And now, when it comes to people dealing with what others say and what they think about them as they deal with depression, anxiety, feeling that they are just not enough. Yes, because of the past, but just in the moment of life, feeling that they're not enough, people looking at them in the wrong way. Why is it very important for a person to not try to be perfect, to try to measure up to someone else's thoughts or what others say when they're struggling with mental illness?
I think that the very concept of perfection is just not real. And I mean, if you even look at what's happening with social media and how it's affecting people and making them feel less than and depressed and all of that, it's just such a horrible thing that we're all taking upon ourselves, sort of the compare and despair thing. Let me compare myself to my friend from 30 years ago on Facebook who has a huge house, but who knows? I mean, he could be doing something horrible behind the scenes. We don't know. So I think it's this false front that we all sort of fall prey to. And it's unfortunate, but I'll tell you what, I'm on social media too. My whole business is, conducted
Right.
through social media.
Yeah.
So I'm not escaping it, but I don't want my daughter on it, So yeah, I think that and if you're mentally ill to boot and you're looking at all these people who seem to be doing so great, then, it's going to hit you even harder. So I don't know. It's what's great, I think, about some social media is that, like, on Facebook, for instance, there are a lot of different groups that you can join that are support groups. And I never had that in the beginning, like the narcissist abuse support group and then the bipolar support groups. They're amazing. So when it comes to that sort of thing, like, great, go and do that, go and join that and, get the help that you need. But yeah, I think that anyone with a mental illness is already going to be at the bottom of the ladder in terms of feeling good about themselves or trying to feel better about themselves.
And that's why a posting like you had here, February 16th of this year, you have a posting that says, "There's no such thing as perfection. Make progress instead." And then in the comments, you put, "Keep it steady. You're on your way." This is a post like this, and you have quite a few of them, are why I really wanted you on this platform and on the show, because you ooze positivity. You ooze positivity even if you're struggling with something yourself. You have so much value that you bring to the table as a woman and as a person with your page.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You have a huge impact. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You were going to say?
I was just going to say that, one of the things that drives me so much is that since I know what it's like to go through these things, it just pains me to death to think of anyone else going through it. And I don't want my worst to have a narcissistic boyfriend. I just don't want that to happen to anyone. And if I can help anyone skip a step or two into the getting better process, then great, But yeah, for the people that I care about, for the causes that I care about, absolutely. I mean, that's just my passion.
Yeah, looking at the screen, we have some more comments that have come in from Unique's Twitch. I hope I'm saying that right there. Mentions the fact that, and everybody feel free to, if you're first time here, feel free to, if I get it wrong, that you're a male or female. It's because the little picture here on your thing is so small I can't tell. So I believe that's a female there, and she puts, "I am a narcissist abuse survivor." So when it comes to narcissistic abuse, as she just mentioned there, being a survivor, that's something that most people have gone through, including you. Yes?
Oh God, yes. Unfortunately.
What's your story? Because everyone has a story in life. What's your story when it comes to that?
Unfortunately, I'm just steeped in it. My parents were both narcissists, and I hope they're not watching. My sister, good God.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I want your family to know I have nothing to do with this. So please do not send your lawyers to my public service. No, I'm just, go ahead. Go ahead. You were going to say.
The thing is, unfortunately, I am not unique. I am not unique in that. And when you're groomed to be used to that, it makes it harder for you to discern whether the person you're dating is a good guy or not. You're so used to the red flags that you grew up with that you think that's normal. So if someone else starts misbehaving in your life later, you're just like, oh, I recognize that. That's, whatever. I can roll with that. I can.
Right.
Yeah. I've dealt
with so-and-so did that when I was a kid, or so-and-so did that. So it must be normal. And actually it's no bueno. It's not good.
Not good at all. And so it took me a really long time. I think I was in my mid-30s when I finally had a therapist say, you realize that your entire nuclear family are narcissists? And I'm like, no. What does that mean?
That's why he called it nuclear. That's why he called it nuclear. You were like, they're blowing you up, girl. You need some new family. You need to go get adopted. Get adopted by somebody else.
Oh yeah. I had a major brush with one of them this morning, in fact. So it's just, it's insidious. And so I feel like since my last breakup, I feel like, okay, I'm well educated with this enough to eventually start dating again one day. But I don't know. It's kind of nice to not deal with that.
Well, sometimes, the owl that is in a tree will always find a mate because they're always checking to see who is the right person. That was my joke for the day. So you have to always just see who is the right person to let into your home or into your life or into your intimate circle by just watching them. And the owl has big eyes for a reason. They watch everything and everybody to make sure that they're safe. And that's kind of the way many are finding it. Their life has to be, even with, sad to say, with their siblings or family members, that they have to be careful how far they take a step or two with them, because they'll turn around and bite your head off. Or would you
try to set a boundary and see what happens? It's just fun.
So now, when it comes to narcissism, if you had to describe to someone what is a part of narcissism in today's society, or in a nuclear family or in a family arrangement, when it comes to friends that could be that way, can have these characteristics or traits, what suggestions and tips do you offer off of your page and in your life experience that you could pass on to someone now?
Yeah, I think that, well, there are so many different categories of narcissists and, different ways that they fit into your life. As a child, you don't have any choice to be kind of stuck in it if your parents are narcissists. So you're just kind of having to weather through that. But if you become a certain age, and it's like more kids are getting therapy these days, thank God. And so if you can discuss that sort of thing with someone you trust and try to figure out, okay, how can I set boundaries with these people? And moving forward, learn how to do that with other people too. But I would say from a parental standpoint, you have to watch out for people feeling like you're just an extension of them. You're there to sort of gratify their ego. Everything is about them. They might lie to you constantly. They might gaslight you. The lying, I mean, it's just overwhelming.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. When it comes to friends, you might have certain friends that are fair weather friends. I mean, if they need you for anything, you will be there in a heartbeat and you will take care of whatever they need. If they need you or want you for any reasons, they will never stop calling out favors from you, but they'll be magically absent when you need a favor. So you can figure that out pretty quickly, that those aren't the ones that you want long term. When it comes to someone that you're dating or married to, I would say be really careful to look out for the love bombing, meaning at the very beginning of the relationship, they will just give you all the hearts and flowers and be so serious about you and how wonderful you are. And oh my God, we should start living together after a week. And, and then they gaslight you. They sort of say, oh, I never said those things. I still have friends that I talk to that are women and blah, 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 that sort of thing. And they create this trauma bond. They're good to you sometimes and you get all fueled up about that. And then they're bad and awful to you, say terrible things maybe, or have tantrums when you confront them about anything. So it's always these ups and downs, but you stick around for the ups. So there's a lot. I mean, there's so much that you have to contend with. They tend to keep, any narcissist who is in a love relationship with you will tend to keep a harem of people on the side that are paying them attention and feeding their supply and making sure that you've always got your ego boosted and that sort of thing. And that can be going on, while they're engaged in a multi-year relationship with their primary supply. So yeah, there are just so many red flags that you can look at and be wary of. And then when you get out of it, it's really hard to extract yourself, and you kind of have to go no contact at the very end there. You cannot look at them on social media, allow them to text you, any of that, because it's just keep on getting sucked into these horrible situations. And
is that kind of like inevitable? Is that kind of like, that's pretty much the way it's going to end? You got to go no contact, or discard or no contact is eventually coming one way or the other?
Typically, if you can do that, unfortunately, a lot of people have to co-parent with.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Narcissistic acts. So you just have to tiptoe and be careful and just yes them to death. And like it's awful, but maybe don't make any waves. They call that gray rocking. If you gray rock someone, you just kind of fly under the radar. You don't make any big announcements or any big trouble. And so just kind of slide along that way. And that's what a lot of kids have to do when they come up through narcissistic homes. They just have to kind of do so they're old enough to get away from it.
So they just got to fly below the radar, kind of stay as invisible as possible, but still exist there until they're able to make a move. Let's turn to the screen, because you're getting comments again on the screen. You have something there from Barry_bipolar. Thank you again for your comment there. Question rather, do you think we can become narcissistic or stop being narcissistic? Would you like to tackle that? Would you like to give some thoughts on that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad you said yes, because we are going to take a commercial break right now, and when we come back, we will tackle, you will tackle this. You will, not me, you. you will tackle this question, which is, do you think we can become narcissistic or stop being narcissistic? But we're going to need to take a commercial break right now as I'm looking at the clock. And we're going to take that for about 10, 15 minutes, and we're going to come back and answer that question. If for some reason you can't stick around, I appreciate you being here and always watching narcabuse_TV, or right now you're with Open Session_podcast, in which we talk about just about everything under the sun in open session. So we're going to be back in just a little bit. Thank you, Darcy. And you're not going crazy.
I'm not.
We deliberately, no, not you. No, you and I are crazy. That's different. But everybody else, you're not going crazy. We deliberately wore red today. That was just the thing. I have no idea why. We just decided we were going to do that. So, but I refuse to wear lipstick. But anyhow, so today we're going to talk about narcissistic behavior and traits when we come back with Darcy. Thank you, everybody. We'll be right back
Thanks.
on Open Session Podcast.